Hello, friends, and welcome to Your Daily Detroit. We are back after the holidays. I hope you had a good one. I am Jer Stays. Let's start with some good news on this Monday, January 5th, 2026. Well, good news unless you're a vampire. Here in Metro Detroit, the days are finally stretching out again. We'll tack on about 50 minutes of daylight between now and the end of January, with sunsets creeping toward 5:45 p.m. by the month's end. Even better and brighter, on average, Detroit gains about a minute and a half of daylight per day in January, but by the end of the month, we're picking up just over 2 minutes of extra light each day. Before we keep going, thanks to our members on Patreon, patreon.com/dailydetroit, for making this show possible. Get your sticker pack, or get your rocks class, or get both, whatever you want to do. And special thanks to Robert, Andy, Chris, RJ, Tim, and Amy, who recently joined us at patreon.com/dailydetroit. Let's get into some stories to catch up on from the holiday break. The city of Detroit starts 2026 with a new mayor. Mary Sheffield has been sworn in as Detroit's 76th mayor, making history as the first woman ever elected to lead the city in more than 300 years. She took the oath of office at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center in a small ceremony with family, administered by Detroit City Clerk Janice Winfrey. Sheffield steps into the job after more than a decade on city council, where she rose to president and built a profile on housing affordability and neighborhood investment. Voters handed her a landslide win in November over Reverend Solomon Kinlock Jr. She's replacing longtime Mayor Mike Duggan, who is now running in an independent bid for Michigan governor. Multiple reports say that a number of Duggan appointees are going to carry over into the new administration. In her first remarks as mayor, Sheffield called the moment, quote, bigger than me, unquote, and promised an administration focused on equity, opportunity, and service in every neighborhood. Today, Sheffield announced that Detroit is now the largest city in Michigan to join the RX Kids program that provides direct cash assistance to pregnant and new mothers. Eligible Detroit moms will receive $1,500 during pregnancy and $500 per month for the baby's first 6 months. The program is from Michigan State University and will be funded by a combination of city and foundation dollars. And in related news, longtime District 1 Council member James Tate has been named City Council President, and Coleman Young II, the Council President pro tempore. Detroit's main school district could lose millions of dollars in state funding over how many kids show up to class each day. Chalkbeat Detroit reports that the Detroit Public Schools Community District has been flagged for more than $2.2 million in penalties under a Michigan rule that says districts get docked when daily attendance drops below 75%. Vitti argues that the policy hits hardest in high-poverty communities like Detroit, where absences are often tied to housing instability, limited transportation, health issues, and aging school buildings that sometimes force closures. Taking away the money, he says, makes the problem worse. State officials counter that they are required by law to enforce the penalties and that all districts are treated the same under the formula. Vitti is now pushing lawmakers in Lansing to rewrite the rule. My 2 cents, both sides have a point. This is tough, as though I understand there are issues. I am, after all, a long-term city resident who lives in a neighborhood with transportation issues. Instead of rewriting the rule, we should find funds and deal with community issues that address the problem, as 75% attendance gets you fired in the real world, and missing 25% of the lessons isn't going to help anyone. As always, I'll put a link in the show notes, in this case to Chalkbeat Detroit, and your thoughts, dailydetroit@gmail.com or 313-789-3211. Highland Park leaders say they will fight any attempt to put a new ICE Detention and processing center in their city after Highland Park showed up on an internal federal list of possible immigration sites. The Trump administration is exploring a plan to use big warehouse-style buildings across the country to hold and quickly process immigrants for deportation. And a Washington Post report says Highland Park was flagged as one of 16 smaller processing locations nationwide. Mayor Glenda McDonald and local lawmakers say they first heard about Highland Park's inclusion from reporters, not the federal government. and that so far ICE and Homeland Security have not confirmed any specific project or timeline. One warehouse on Hamilton at the Detroit Highland Park border was reportedly looked at on paper, but the developer says that the building is leased to DTE and, quote, not an option, unquote, for a detention facility. For now, this is still in the rumor and draft stage. It is not clear whether the feds are actively pursuing the site, and city officials say they are already looking at what they can do legally to block any move before it becomes real. But this highlights how in this era, national news becomes extremely local, and how immigration crackdowns could land in a majority black, majority renter inner ring community that's already under financial pressure. It also raises fresh questions about how much say local residents have when Washington, D.C. quietly puts their neighborhood in their plans. Sheetz has opened its first Warren store in Macomb County and fourth Metro Detroit location on Van Dyke, just north of 13 Mile, on the old Pampa Lanes site. The Pennsylvania-based chain is leaning hard into the idea of a, quote, convenience store as community space, unquote, with a grand opening over the holiday break that doubled as a food drive for Forgotten Harvest. Company officials say Warren fits their playbook, a working-class, auto-driven city where people work odd hours and need somewhere reliable to grab food, fuel, and coffee. This is just one piece of a much bigger bet. Sheetz still plans 50 to 60 locations and about $500 million of investment across Southeast Michigan over the next 5 to 6 years, including a proposed site at the old Detroit News and Free Press printing plant property in Sterling Heights that's now winding its way through the local approval process. That is a lot of peace, friends. My quick take, I got to check out this location over the holidays before it opened, and a taste test ranking the Sheetz items is coming to your feeds in the new year. So far, I've generally thought the concern on these has been way overblown as someone who had been to these in other states, but I'd love to hear what you think. Now, I want to send you out the door with something interesting, something you can check out and do. Wayne State University is inviting the public into Old Main this Saturday for Public Archaeology Day, a free all-ages event that brings rarely seen artifacts out of storage and into the spotlight. From 10 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, visitors can explore collections tied to Detroit's past, along with objects from shipwrecks, farmsteads, and other sites across the region. Archaeologists, including underwater specialists, will be on hand with tools of the trade, hands-on activities, and time to answer questions. The day also features a new Fort Archeology in Michigan exhibit and access to the Lowry Geology Mineral Museum, both housed in historic Old Main, built in 1895 as Detroit's Central High School. The event coincides with the Society for Historical Archaeology's International Conference downtown, bringing experts from around the world to Detroit. This public day is free and open to everyone, with bus, Q-Line, Mogo, and nearby parking options along Woodward and Cass. You know, unrelated but related, I saw a very cool Lego version of the Old Main at the Henry Ford Museum over the holidays. Another thing you might want to check out. All right, 3 things before you go. Live stream tomorrow afternoon on YouTube with none other than the Prince of Brightmoor himself, Norris Howard. In your feeds, I plan a conversation with Veronica Scott, the designer and nonprofit leader behind the Empowerment Plan, who has been helping keep the unhoused warm around the world from here in Detroit, having produced 100,000 coats that also function as sleeping bags. And if you look at our magazine this month, I'm featured along with some other bright minds in their burning questions for 2026. As always, feedback dailydetroit@gmail.com or 313-789-3211. Thanks so much for listening to your Daily Detroit. If you don't already, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your shows. I'm J.R. Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and let's build an amazing 2026 together.